Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is Patty Donohue, the product manager for CCCApply, and I want to thank you for taking an hour out in the middle of your day to take a look at the upcoming release preview. I have a few people on the line. I'm going to introduce them in 1 second. I just wanted to let you know that looks like we're not going to have our large license this time either, so we'll try to get that fixed for the 4 o'clock. So if you know anybody who can't get into this meeting, hopefully we can make it happen for them at 4. So let's click on this. So again, my name is Patty Donohue. I know most of you. I also have my co-presenter today, Tyler Bain. He is a lead developer for our development company, Unicon, that actually develops CCCApply, and the OpenCCC account system, and the BOG fee waiver, and the international app. So Tyler is going to be doing the actual demonstrating. 2 support people as well, Merrie Wales, many of you know her. She is the college support rep here at the Tech Center. She's going to be monitoring the chat window. And Stephen English, who is a project manager for CCCApply. He's going to be monitoring at 4, but hopefully he's participating as well. So I just wanted to take a second to go over, actually I'm going to jump ahead and come back to that one. Just a reminder that I have muted all the lines. If anybody comes on and they accidentally unmute themselves, we'll take care of it. Which means please use the chat window for any questions. We're going to take a little break after kind of the first part of this demo for some questions before we get too far into it, and then finish the content demonstration and then come back for a longer Q&A session. So if anybody is having any trouble with their voice over IP, they can phone in, and there's 2 phone numbers below. I recommend the 408 number, and then there's the meeting ID. So, so just to kind of give you a lay of the land, what we're going to do for the next hour, we're going to talk about the pilot preview and kind of the objectives of this. Not only this demo, but you know, the pilot preview 30-day period that we've just kicked off on Friday. Our objective, and we're going to say it over and over, is this is the time that we hope that you will take a look at everything that's being released, implement it if you choose to implement the multiple measures, which we're going to get to, and the data fields. Now's the time to do it. You know, don't wait until right before the release, just in case, because we want to make sure that you're ready to go on September 30th when this actually rolls to students in production. We're going to talk about a few changes we made to the OpenCCC account. There's actually a bunch of little tiny bugs that we fixed, but we're not going to show those. They're not worth it. Little typos, little things that you didn't even catch. But there are 2 that we'll point out. Then we'll take a little break for questions, and then we'll dive back into the 2 big content changes. The change to the residency logic, and then the multiple measures implementation. We'll quickly take a look at where to go in the pilot site for your pilot application. For IT folks on the line, we're going to point out where the new download files are. There's actually a pilot set of download files. So while you're testing and implementing during this 30 days, you'll want to set up your pilot downloads with those files, and then we'll point out where the production download files are. And then at the very end, encourage you and show you where to provide feedback. So just one quick note about that. So as part of this, actually, let me find that screen and come back to it. As part of this whole release process, development has actually ceased for the next 30 days. We are not developing anything new. We did a code freeze right on August 26th, and so development, support, me, we're going to be spending this 30 days helping you get implemented, anything that you need, and then working on any bugs or issues that you find in the pilot site. So this is just kind of a quick schedule. We kicked off the 30-day preview on Friday. Today's the webinars. That September 23rd date, like the final date for feedback, we're flexible on that. We'd actually like to say a couple days sooner. If you can, try not to wait till the very end. If you know you're going to implement the multiple measures, do it as soon as you can, and then give us feedback as soon as you can, so that we can make those changes by the time September 30th comes up. So we're actually rolling out a new communication policy for all releases from here on out. We are going to pretty much code freeze 30 to 60 days in advance, most likely 60, or by 60 days before the release, we're telling you exactly what's going to be released, and give you the outline of when we're rolling the pilot, when the release is, and for the big annual update. So for any of you who are new to CCCApply, for the past 15 years, we've been on an annual update cycle, meaning one big release a year. And it almost always happens in March. I think a couple times it was like April 1st or April 2nd, but it's usually, right at the end of March. However, the past 2 years, we've been doing a September supplement release. So for the supplements, which are smaller releases, 60 days in advance, it's coming. Then we will post the change request, the approved change request specs. Here's what we're going to release. We're also posting notes from the steering committee meetings, and I have this site queued up. We'll take a look at it in a minute if you're not familiar with the project site. We will roll all the changes to pilot 30 days in advance. We will have a webinar, and it'll be sometime within the first week of a 30-day pilot preview period, and then spend the rest of those 30 days helping you and trying to encourage you to review, set up, test, and give us that feedback. So what you're going to be seeing today is the pilot site. Again, bear with me, everybody. I'm going to kind of cater to anybody new. So CCCApply has a full functioning pilot environment, which another name would be a beta site or a test site for you, so that you always have an environment for testing, implementation, but we will also use that pilot site for the preparing for releases. So if you've never been to your pilot application before, everybody has one. Every college has one. Here's the links to it for each of the applications. So even if you haven't implemented the BOG fee waiver yet, you have a BOG pilot application. And you can go and look at it and preview it and decide if you want to implement at any time. Everybody has the same URL, except you're going to replace that XXX at the end with your college MIS code. So I wanted to repeat that, and I'll probably update the slide to reinforce that. It's your college MIS code and not your district MIS code. So even if you're a single college district, use your college MIS code. Whoop. Okay, so getting into kind of, these are the changes we've been making. I'm going to set up and talk just a little bit about the Shibboleth upgrade, and then I'm going to turn this over to Tyler Bain and let him demonstrate some of the other changes. You've probably heard a lot of, what is Shibboleth? And, if you're new to CCCApply or OpenCCC, if you've never heard of Shibboleth before, it is a identity provider software solution. There's a lot of them out there. We chose, when we first implemented OpenCCC, which is that the statewide, system-wide, student account system, And here's kind of a picture of what the student sees when they go to log in. We have an identity provider that will facilitate single sign-on for the student. Now, up until this point in time, OpenCCC, it is an IDP. We did use Shibboleth software version 2 to set this up, mainly because we knew we'd be asking colleges to set up an IDP at some point in the future. And actually, as part of the CCCApply, getting to the administrator of the report center, we had you set up an IDP. But we chose Shibboleth because it's an open source software. We didn't want to put a big price tag on you, or make you put those resources into an IDP if you're just setting it up for CCCApply. So we chose open source Shibboleth. It's developed by a company named Internet2, and this past July 31st, the version 2 that we have been using for students, and that the majority of you set up for getting to the administrator, reached end of life. So we no longer had a supported version, and that is what prompted us to upgrade to version 3. So again, version 2 is not supported anymore. Version 3. So the other thing about version 2 is that we had you set it up for staff getting to the administrator in the report center. Students aren't using that IDP that you set up. That's for you and your staff to access the CCCApply staff tools behind it. The student version, so this is our OpenCCC IDP. This is what's being upgraded. And one of the other big reasons we're doing it is it facilitates streamlined, easy, single sign-on for students, which is going to be kind of the keystone of the CCC SSO Federation. I'm not going to talk a lot about it, but I have a feeling you've been hearing a lot about it lately. So I do have a slide that will touch on it, which is this. Let me come back to it. So I've already gotten a couple questions in the support site and directly to my email from you guys going, wait a minute, you're upgrading. What does that mean for me? Do we have to upgrade? So your IDP that's going to the administrator or the report center, unless you've upgraded it already to version 3, it's not supported anymore. So there's nothing you need to do. It's not going to break. It's just something that you need to be aware of, that Internet2 is no longer supporting that version. They're not going to make any patches to it anymore. Again, it's not going to explode because of it, reaching end of life, but we hope that you will, start to think about upgrading if you haven't already. So you can see a couple questions, and I've answered them on here. One that I want to point out, though, is so if you have an older version of Shibboleth, version 2, you're thinking about either implementing the CCC Assess, the Common Assessment project, or the portal, the MyPath portal, or the Course Exchange, which is being developed as part of the Online Education Initiative, any of the Tech Center single sign-on applications. If you are thinking about doing that, you need to invest time and money into an upgrade, possibly. We have resources to help you. So if you haven't been in contact with someone at the Tech Center, one of the product managers, or me, and you need help, whether it's financial or just technical support help, please contact us. We have resources right now to help you. Implementation, mini grants. We want to see you upgraded and participating in single sign-on across the system. So I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I did throw this in. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but again, you may be hearing these terms. The CCC SSO Federation, what is that? That is, and it's a long time coming. If you've been with us for a while, you know that the Tech Center has had kind of a master plan to integrate all of the student services the secure web applications that they're developing into one single sign-on experience for a student. And that requires colleges that want to participate in that and take advantage of all the free services, the Canvas course management system, again, the Assess and the Online Ed. We will ask you to implement an IDP, an identity provider for students. So the one you're using for CCCApply right now is just for staff. So we will work with you to upgrade, to get you into our federation. There's other terms I won't go into, like in common, which is another single sign-on federation. It's a national organization, and from what I'm learning about that, it pretty much stands for, it's a federation of trust. They, we can, if you're in common, and you're connecting to a service provider like Canvas or even the Tech Center's applications, you can trust us. We've been vetted. In Common has a whole process for registering our metadata and making sure we are who we are, confirming our certificates. So there's a whole bunch of information on this that I'd be happy to send to you. We have another public documentation site where all of this info is rolling out right now. So just ping me or put it in the chat, and I'll make sure that you get a call, or at least you know where that documentation is. So last thing, and then I'm going to stop talking and turn it over. So the first thing that we're going to show you, get into actually demoing this, is we rolled out a new option for account recovery. And the reason why we did this, the primary reason is every phone call that comes into the help desk, the support site, the student help desk, that costs us money. And we've been running the numbers, we've been watching it for a few years, and we've identified that 6% of all the submitted applications, all your students, are resulting in a call to the help desk. They need help. And more than half of those calls are about account recovery. They either forget their username and password, right, which makes sense. They applied once a year ago and they're coming back. They can't remember their username and password. Or for whatever reason, they need to update their account and they can't get it. They can't remember their security questions. So we've realized that we needed some more options. This is the first of two. This one is a completely 100% self-service account recovery option, where if a student goes to sign in to that IDP, the OpenCCC account, and they can't remember their password, they can follow the steps online without calling the help desk and request an email be sent to them with a link that goes directly to password reset, bypasses the security questions. They reset their password and they sign in, and they get directed exactly to where they were going, in the first place. So let's say they were trying to log into the bog fee waiver, and Tyler's going to demo this. They forgot their password. They can request the email, get the email immediately to their email address that they created their account with. So that's one of the requirements. It's not going to ask them to put in their email again. It's going to send it to the one that we have on file. Click on the link, and it comes immediately. Click on the link, go to the password reset, and then as soon as they sign in, they're in the bog. So I'm going to let Tyler go ahead and show you what that looks like. Tyler?
Thanks, Patty. I'll share my screen here in a second. So can everybody see me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. So to start out with, I'm going to start from the apply site. As Patty described, this feature does allow you, once the user starts from either the OpenCCCApply site, the bog fee waiver application, or from the international application. Depending on where you start, that is where you will end up with this process. Today I'm just going to be demoing this on the apply application, but keep in mind that this same redirect functionality that's at the end of this flow will work for Bog and International, and then also if you come directly from the OpenCCC account site as well. So I'm starting here at the very first page that the user would encounter when they go to sign on to the OpenCCCApply application. You'll notice that I'm applying to a test college, College A, that we have, so just keep in mind that the user will be redirected back into the My Applications page for their College A. So I go ahead and click the sign in button, and I can't remember what my username is or my password. So I'm going to click the forgot link and then go to I forgot my password. So once I go there, I'm sent over to the OpenCCC account management site, and I'm going to go ahead and enter my username in this case. This is the same flow that a user would encounter if they forgot their username. They would also be able to go through that recovery process to enter their first name, their social security number, their email address, and so forth in order to find their account. But just for the sake of expediency, I'm going to go ahead and pretend that I'm a user that can remember my username but cannot remember my password. So once I enter my username and I click the continue button, I get sent to a page with an option for send me an email link to reset my password or access my account by answering security questions. If I click the radio button for access my account by security questions, then it's the same experience that the users had for the last several years, where they're able to answer their security questions and then move on to changing their password after that. The new feature is that if the user clicks the send me an email link and then clicks the continue button, they're sent to a page that just confirms that an email has been sent to their inbox so that they can use that to click a link in order to access their account. So at this point, if I go over to my inbox, then you'll see that I got this lovely email here asking me, or telling me that I recently requested to reset my OpenCCC account password. You'll notice this big, long, ugly URL that the user has asked for, and then just some additional information around this, just telling the user that the reset link is going to expire in 24 hours. So if I click that link, so you'll notice that this is a different browser. Originally, I was in Chrome over here. Now, in this browser, I'm in Firefox, so this is a completely different session, completely different information that hasn't been saved or carried over. So based off of my clicking that link, we're able to find my same account, my Bain1 account again. So if I change this from my current password is just password1, which is also what I use on all my bank accounts and so forth, just to keep things easier for me. If I go ahead and change this to test1234, so I'm going to go ahead and click continue. So I successfully reset my password, and then I'm prompted to sign in. So, and then I'm sent to the sign-in page. So if I enter password1, which was my original password before, and I try to click the sign-in button, I get that my username password could not be found. If I enter test1234, which is the new value that I just entered after resetting my password, and I click the sign-in button. And if I type it incorrectly, that usually helps as well. So I'm signed in, and I'm sent directly to the OpenCCCApply site where I started, to the College A that I was applying to, and I land directly in the My Applications page where I can continue with starting or continuing or submitting an application that I already had in progress. One other aspect of this new feature to show you guys today is if I mentioned earlier that we have a 24-hour timeout on those links. So after 24 hours, those links are not usable by the users. So if I go back here to an email that I sent, or a reset password request that I received yesterday. If you look at the timestamp for this email, it was yesterday at 8:30 in the morning. So if I click this if I click this link, instead of being sent to a page where I can reset my password, I'm instead sent to a page where your OpenCCC password link has expired. Please click continue. And if I do that, then I'm just sent back to the start of my flow where I'm asked to recover my username and so forth. So if somebody finds your email account or something, then they can't click one of those links to access your account through and change your password for you. I think that was it. I know there will be space for questions at this point. Patty, did I miss anything on this feature?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think that was all that I want to present, so I'll go ahead and pass it back to you, Patty. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So we're talking about two more things and then hit some questions. That'll be kind of the midpoint break. And oops, make sure I click on this. So I had mentioned earlier that there's a list of bugs that we fixed, and hopefully most of you have saw the release notes page. I actually have that queued up. We can take a look at it, and you can see all the tiny typos and all the little things we fixed. But we wanted to at least acknowledge two that were reported by colleges, multiple colleges, and just let you know that we've heard you and we fixed those. So the first one is, and hopefully I do this justice describing it, the issue was that, null values. So a null value, if I can describe this correctly, is if a question is not required and the student does not answer the not required question, that data field's empty. And depending on the format of the data field on the back end and the download end, a variety of values will download from anywhere from a set of quotes with nothing in the middle, sometimes the word null, sometimes quotes with a space. So for situations like the first name, in the OpenCCC account, by law, we can't require a student to give us their first name. We can, by law, require them to give us their last name. But since we can't require the first name or the middle name, we give them, if you've seen this during setup, what is your first legal name? If you don't have one, check this box saying I do not have a first name. Same with the middle name. If they check that box saying they have no first name, you guys know it, but a null value appears in the first name field. Well, in some of your email messages, if you put together an email like a rule, and one of your rules is to send a welcome email to this person. In addition, the OpenCCC account creation automatic email that responds to they just created their account, here's their confirmation letter. Well, if there's no first name, previously to this fix, the display of that was not good. It was HTML code. It looked like a merge field, with the word null in it. So this is just a tiny thing, but we wanted to make sure that you knew we fixed this. If you do set up your email messages in the rules in the administrator, and there is a null value to one of the merge fields you merge in, it will just not appear. So you can see on here, Tyler Bain created his account. When he did it, he said he did not have a first name. So, in the salutation, we just say, Dear Bain, for good or for bad. At least it doesn't have that merge field HTML code showing. So that was the first one. The other one, kind of similar, was, and this, we've been trying to get to this for, months, but some of you know for some of the other email messages, if you merge in data fields, like based on, the fact that their military status is they're a dependent of a current military, and you want to send them an email, so you create your email message with that specific merge field in the body of your email. The date field had a timestamp at the end. and it was in military time. So it was ugly and it was hard to read. So we removed that timestamp from all date fields. So now one thing I should point out, because it threw me off, in the administrator, when you're setting up your rule and setting up your message in the little preview box to see what it looks like, that timestamp might still show up. But in the actual email letter that the student gets, it does not. So we remove that timestamp. Small thing, but you were waiting for it, so I wanted to point that out. By the way, so far, there's nothing that you guys need to do for any of the things that we've changed or implemented so far. So that was it. Perfect timing, right at the bottom of the hour. So I'm going to open it up, and depending on how many questions are in chat, looks like 20. I don't know what that equates to actual messages. Merrie, if you can unmute yourself and kind of start at the top, and let's get through as many as we can in 5 minutes.
We really haven't had that many questions. One of the comments was that 30 days is not much time for piloting. So if you'd like to comment to that, great. The next one was, will you email the pilot links? And what I let people know is that the slides will be available on the CCC Technology Info site after the previews.
Yes.
There is also a question about, and D there, I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but is there a pilot admin for studying our pilot? And I'm not sure what that means.
So let me address the very first question about pilot, because I can see how this would be confusing, because the word pilot is being used a lot right now at the Tech Center. So there's a difference in the way we're using it. We're calling the pilot preview, or to pilot this as go into the test environment and check out the changes. So if whoever wrote that comment was thinking, it's a brand new implementation, we're asking you to be a pilot site and to test and to implement, I absolutely agree. 30 days is probably impossible. But this is just for the few changes that we've made. If the one thing that we're going to get to in a minute is the multiple measures. If it's not enough time, 30 days isn't enough time to really consider them and make a decision, because the work, the IT work to implement this is something that your IT staff should be really familiar with. It's just a matter of adding a few data fields to your download file. So hopefully I answered that correctly. I'm not really asking, like a pilot implementation. It's more of that's what we call the test environment, is the pilot site. And this 30 days, if you feel it's still not enough to take a look at the few things we made, we want that feedback. So let us know. The other thing is it's really challenging to stop code development 60, 90 days before a release. We're doing it. It's challenging. We're figuring out how to make this work, but we're open to suggestions. If you still feel like 60 days isn't enough, let us know. By the way, the CCCApply Steering Committee is the one that came up with the 60, 90 days. So I'm sure they'll want that feedback too. So any other questions, Merrie? I wasn't sure about the second pilot question.
Sorry, trying to respond in a different email. So the second pilot question was from D. Thayer. She asked if there is a pilot admin for setting up our pilot.
Pilot admin. Okay, so maybe if you're speaking about the, the pilot environment that we're talking about, and we can break from this slideshow and show you exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you have a full a full set. You have your applications in Pilot. They're all test. And anything that happens in the Pilot environment is all, test stuff, not real students applying. Mostly your staff throwing in test applications. But you also have a test administrator. So it's like setting up a mirror image of your production administrator, report center, application, the full process in a test environment. And it's usually what you do when you first implement CCCApply. Most of you already have done that. We get you to set everything up in this test environment first to make sure it all works. So to answer your question is, yes, you have a Pilot test administrator and a Pilot/test report center, so that the full process of putting in a test application. Before you put in a test application, you go into your test administrator and set up some dummy terms and some, placeholder majors, so that everything's there for you to run some tests. You have your test rules area, so you can test the whole rule process. Pretty much a mirror image of production test environment. Hopefully that made sense. So Merrie, anything else pressing? Otherwise we can keep going and circle back to the rest.
There's two more questions. One is, if you are wanting the multiple measures data but don't want to download them, do you have to change your download client? And I said, no, you don't. And the other one was, where will the new fields be located? And the answer is wherever in your format XML you place the new data fields, and that's totally up to every college.
Unless they mean, where do you go to find what data fields they are? And I'm going to show you what they are, but everything, all the data fields that are in the CCCApply standard app are in the data dictionary. And we also have user guides. And I have those queued up. I will show you where those live. So, first of all, for releases, we have release notes so that we can show you exactly, here's what's being released. So here's kind of a release note summary. And give you some details about timing. Let me see if I can move this thing. A little bit about the webinar, a little talk about the 30-day preview, and then we get into a summary. If you need really technical details, we can provide those. But mostly it's high-level stuff. Your IT people need a certain level of technical stuff, and that's in the data dictionary. So we kind of give you a high-level summary of what's being either developed or fixed. And then, by the way, if you haven't seen this release notes, so here's the standard application, the changes we made in this release. Here's the multiple measures. You see these hyperlinks. They're going to take you to a change request specification. So almost every single thing that gets changed in CCCApply starts as a change request. And change requests can be super informal. You can send an email to me or go to the support site and say, hey, we think that we should add this question to the application, because it's not going to just affect us, it's going to affect all the colleges. This legislation's coming down the pike. It starts as kind of a change request. The change request goes before the steering committee. Steering committee meets every other month. Several in-person meetings a year and several online meetings a year. They review every new change request and either approve it, decline it, or defer it. And a lot of things get deferred for a variety of reasons. Either we need more information, or it's something that we are prepared to develop yet for a variety of reasons. Some being, hey, we got a new version of the administrator coming out next year. If we spend all the time and energy to make that fix now, we're just kind of wasting resources. So we're going to defer this until and include it in the administrator redesign. So there's a lot of reasons why things get deferred. Things get declined because either the request only pertains to a small percentage of colleges or students, and that's usually the case. Or, we get a lot of flack, a lot of not bad press, but there's a lot of concern that the application is long. It's I can tell you right now, with my years of experience on CCCApply, there is no frivolous questions in that application. Everything is either mandated, or MIS needs it, or it's there for a really good reason. Like the needs and interest page, that's probably the only thing in the application that isn't mandated by law. But if we didn't have that, we wouldn't know that they need counseling help, that they all of their needs and their interests. So we've considered taking that out before, but the page is optional. Nobody has to answer anything, and it really does provide value. So anyway, I'm showing you about the multiple measures. How a change request turns into a spec. We write up the problem. What the steering committee's response is. This particular issue, by the way, received a lot of attention. Very political, kind of at the chancellor's office level. At first, we were proposing that everybody just, take it. We're going to put it in the application. Common assessment legislation, SB 1456 needs this, so we're just going to do it. And, our system works. Our process works. The steering committee said, no, the application's too long. Make it optional. Let the colleges decide if they want it. So that's what we did. And, a little bit about how it gets approved, why it gets approved. Lots of information here. User stories, a high-level summary of the requirements, and it's hard to summarize these. I try to make them as clear as possible. Give me some feedback on them. But high-level requirements about what you have to do. But I think long story short is, if you don't want to download, you take a look at these specs, and if you don't want to download or include these new fields into your download file, you don't have to. It's completely optional. In fact, almost every data field that we add is optional. You choose if you want to add it. If it's something that the steering committee's approved, that means you probably want it, possibly. This one is that it's so controversial, and we want to make sure it's optional. You don't have to change your download file for them. If you're familiar with the process, the download file is your automated download system. So it depending on you say, I'm going to create a document that says I want all of these fields from CCCApply. Then you can choose to omit some or add more. And then you do another file that says, and here's how often I want to download this. Some colleges download every 10 minutes. Some colleges download every day. Just depends on you. That's your automated download process. That's how most colleges have set it up. But immediately, separate to that, you could go into the report center and look up a student application that was submitted 5 minutes ago. It's not part of your downloads. It's just automatically funneling into the report center. So if you don't want to, you want to implement these, so you want the questions to appear on your application, but you don't want to mess with your download file, you don't have to. You can go into the report center and run a report on just these fields. In fact, we'll create a template, and then you can modify it. And that goes for any new field that we propose or put into the application. So I will come back to this. Let's look at that. In fact, before we look at the multiple measures, I put that last. There's only 2 things left because I wanted to save that to kind of roll into questions. But the next thing we're going to talk about, let me touch on this, and then we'll talk about the logic change. So just so you know, one of the other reasons we're doing this September release is we're still working on accessibility fixes, enhancements, we're committed to providing a accessible application for students who need screen readers, keyboard users, and other types of assistive technologies. We're definitely 508 compliant, but that's kind of old school at this point. We want to rise to a higher level. There's a standard out there. It's abbreviated called WCAG. That's what we call it, but WCAG. It's level 2, AA. It's kind of the middle of the road. It's not the highest, but that's where we're headed. We want to do a better job with accessibility. So each release, we're trying to knock out a few more things. For this one, we made some changes to ASCII art images. We made some changes to keyboard navigation. A lot of them had to do with specific screen readers. So we don't want to bore you with that, but we want you to know that we're still, we're constantly working on accessibility. The one thing we do want to show you is the school finder. And mainly because it took a long time to fix this, and we're proud of it. And we know you have a lot of questions about the school finder. So just real quick, what is it? This is that advanced search lookup on the education page where the student looks up their high school. And I know that you probably have a lot of questions about that, so we can answer those. But we refactored it completely. It is WCAG AA accessible. And I'm going to let Tyler do a real quick demo on that, and then we'll get to the last two content changes.
Thanks, Patty. I'll go ahead and just show this pretty quick since I know people are anxious to get onto the multiple measures question.
Yeah.
If I can figure out how to share my screen again.
Maybe bottom of your screen here. Let me stop. Okay.
Got it, I think. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So just real quick, one of the main features that we worked on, as Patty said, was we had some accessibility issues on the older school finder. So we just kind of went through and completely rewrote it. We completely refactored it and changed it so that the code's a little bit easier to maintain and also consistent across both the domestic apply application and also the international application. So it's the same sort of functionality as before. We just changed it so it's a little friendlier. So if I start typing 3 characters as before, I come up with a list of the various choices that come up that match the CAL entry that I added. One thing you might notice is that we don't have the pagination here on the left-hand side anymore. So users are now required to refine their search just by typing more of the name of their school. If they have more than 25 matches that we can display on one page like this, and we say displaying 25 of 277, or displaying 25 of n matches as the search results may return. And then down here at the bottom, using keyboard accessibility instead of the mouse, which is much easier in this case as well. We also have the nice big heading for My School is Not Listed, where the user can enter their school information manually. And then if they make a choice, they can use the keyboard to select another option that was on the list. This implementation is far more friendly to keyboard navigation and also to screen readers, both of which are really high-value accessibility items. I don't think I really have that much more to talk about on this item, and since it was just a brief overview of functionality that I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with. Patty, I can go ahead and pass it on to you unless there's anything in particular you wanted me to show.
Nope, that's it. Again, go ahead and put some questions in the chat. I know that, we regularly get questions about, hey, this school is not on the list. Can you please add it? Or, hey, this school's address changed, or you have it wrong. I just wanted to just blanket statement, and we can talk about this after, or go into the support site, and I will respond more completely. We get a monthly feed from the California Department of Education. Those are the CDS codes, and from the National College Board. Those are the SEEB codes. we've tried to manually change those files. You know, when we get your feedback, the address change or the school's not there, but every month the new feed overwrites it. So what we're trying to get colleges to do is we've got the links to those 2 sites, and go right to the source. That's the best way to do it. Tell them that, you know, that this change needs to be made. They'll make it, and then our monthly feed will be right. It won't get overridden every month. Okay, on to the next thing. I almost want to mute and tell my dog to stop barking. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so very, very quickly, we don't have to belabor this, and I'm happy to work with you, but one of the issues that kept coming up in the past 6 months mostly, I don't know why in the past 6 months, but several colleges reported that, hey, we're getting some wrong residency status calculations, and it seems to be coming from the out-of-state taxes field. We did a lot of research just trying to figure out why that field. What is happening? You know, all of a sudden. So if you're new to the residency logic, there's 4 specific areas that we have logic for, that, you know, we step through every application. We look at the fields in area A is citizenship, area B is California residency, stay and intent, C is military status, and D is like the special residency opportunities, like seasonal worker and whether you're a public school official or employee. There's just 4 questions on that. The area B is the most complex. We identified the problem, and you don't have to do anything for this change. Basically, what we've found out, and by the way, we have a main steering committee. The main steering committee now includes a bunch of subcommittees. One of the subcommittees is dedicated to residency. When residency issues come up from you guys, we call upon the subcommittee. We get together, we hash it out, we figure out the problem, and, you know, they make a recommendation. Their recommendation was that in step 1 of our current logic, we had it wrong. It was not calculating this particular instance. So let me just take you through this real quick. I can go over it with you if you want to either stay after or email me. But basically, here's step 1 in area B. It's saying, do any of those out-of-state indicators support intent? There's 4 questions. You know, have you paid taxes outside of California last year? Did you vote outside? Did you attend college outside of California? Or did you file a lawsuit? So this first step is saying, are any of those yes? You know, so this is a little bit backwards. We're saying all of these are no. So are all of these no, meaning they didn't do any of that stuff? If yes, go to step 2. And we start to step them through the rest of the logic. If no, meaning one of those was, you know, there was some kind of out-of-state activity, the old logic said classify them as a non-resident right away, but go to step 2. And the reason we had to go to step 2 is because we want to get them down to step 4, which is the foster youth eligibility. So it's even if you're a non-resident, a non-California resident, and you're under the age 20 and you're now residing in California, we're gonna, you know, pass you through, not as a non-resident, but give you a possible resident. Let that student provide you documentation and let you make the call on that. So we want to get them down to step 4 before we say non-resident. So up here, we were saying non-resident right away. That was part of the problem. So what we've done is we've changed this, and we've gone through this many times. Back in the release notes, if you click on the hyperlink for this change, you can see all the huge test matrix that we went through of all the different scenarios. Make sure that we were catching everything. So step 1 now is going to say, instead of a B0, which is a non-resident in this area, give them the B2, which is a possible resident documentation required. So they're going to get the B2, and then to help you out, we created a new flag. And these integrity flags, all they are is a little alert to the admission staff saying, you know, this and this and this. You know, and there's a bunch of them. For this one, it's there's an out-of-state indicator, obtain documentation. So we're going to give them that, and then we're going to say go to step 2. You know, and it's right here we start getting to the nitty-gritty. Have they been in California 2 years? If they get past this, they're going to even jump over the foster youth because it's not going to matter. They're a California resident. So there was no change to step 2. If no, go to step 3. Have they been here at least 1 year? If yes, then go to step 4. If yes, give them B2 because they haven't been here 2 years. We're going to set a flag, go to step 5. So the changes we made were step 1. We changed that to a B2 and a flag. And then on step 4, where we used to end the logic for a non-resident, because if that non-resident gets down to 4 and they're not a foster youth, they had out-of-state activities, we used to just end it right there. Non-resident, don't even go on with the logic, they're done. Now we have one more checkpoint. We added a new step. Way down on step 12 says, did that non-resident class get set? If yes, that's their final calculation and the logic here. If no, go to the final step. Has B2 been set? If yes, give them B2, and you probably have, that's been set already with the flag that it pertains to. If no, then they're a resident. So I know this might be a little confusing. I'm happy to go through it in detail. But again, we've tested it every way from Sunday, and we're really confident that this is going to clear up those problems. Okay, I know we're short on time. So let's get into this multiple measures thing. The one thing that I wanted to point out is if you've been trying to look at this, you know, I announced it and said, hey, it's in there. It's in the pilot application, the pilot site for everybody for 30 days. You can check it out, decide if you want to implement it with your students. The only thing is, these questions aren't going to appear automatically. The user has to meet certain criteria. That's part of this implementation. I'm going to turn it over to Tyler in 1 sec. I also asked the Common Assessment team to give me a couple bullet points for, you know, more of why are we doing this. So I've added it to this. Again, this PowerPoint will be in the support site. I'll also link it in the release notes page. And then before we go see it, if you do want to opt in and you haven't already told the Common Assessment team, John Haddad, he's a product manager here at the Tech Center. Here's his email address. If you lose that, you can always contact me or just go to the support site and say, hey, we want in. So I'm going to quickly turn this over to Tyler.
Thanks, Patty. I'm going to go ahead and log back into my system real quick while I'm sharing my screen. Sorry, I timed out a few minutes ago while I was trying to answer some of the questions in the chat. So I'm going to go directly to the education page. So to start off with, the multiple measures questions will not show up unless your college opts in to see them. Your users will not be presented with these questions unless you specifically ask to be included in the multiple measures. So without any changes, without adding an enrollment status or an education level, The questions do not show up on this page. And in the case of the Unicon, which is a test college that we have opted in to have users answer these questions. So to start out with, I will go ahead and be a first-time student in college after leaving high school. The questions do not show up in this case, not yet at least. So if I say that I received a U.S. diploma, and then I am asked to fill in a high school completion date, so once I've completed entering my high school completion date, which is within the last 10 years as of the residency determination date for the college, then this new section will appear, which asks for the high school transcript information, which goes into the multiple measures questions. So I'm first asked what my GPA is, so I'll go ahead and just enter a 3.59. We have appropriate masking on this field in order to prevent users from entering a 5.0 or something of that nature. If I enter just 3.5, 3.59, then that will show up and so forth. The first question then becomes, what is the highest English course you took in high school? And then I'm provided with a list of different English courses to choose from. I'll go ahead and just select one of them at random. And then it asks me what grade I received. So I can choose A through F, and then passing, non-passing, other non-passing grade, or none of the above, don't know. If I choose, say, a B, which is a passing grade, nothing changes. And then also for the English course, if I choose a D, which is a non-passing grade, nothing changes on that as well. If I, and then the next question after the English is, what was the highest math course that you took in high school? Excuse me. So if I select that I took pre-calculus in high school, I'm asked what grade did I receive in this highest math course that I took. If I select a passing grade down to a C minus, of course this is true for any grade A through C minus, I'm not asking any further questions about what happened with my math course. If I choose a D, which is a non-passing grade, then an additional question opens up. What was the highest math course that you passed with a C minus or better in high school? So I'm presented again with a list of math courses that I possibly took, and then a list of passing grades that I can enter for this. So these are the questions that the user is presented with the multiple measures. A couple of questions that I saw in the chat were, do colleges need to make any changes because of these questions? And the answer would be, if you do not wish to receive this information, or if you do not have to receive this information, then no changes are required at all by your college or your IT staff in order to download these changes. If you wish to opt into receiving these changes, then you will need to contact the CCC Tech Center with Patty Donohue and I believe John Haddad, who Patty just mentioned on one of the slides. You will contact them to opt into receiving these questions, and then your IT staff will need to edit your format file so that you can download the answers to all of these various questions that pertain to multiple measures. But again, I'd like to stress that if your college is not interested in receiving these questions, then there's absolutely nothing that you need to do. By default, you will not receive the information for these courses. One of the other features of this is that if I enter a date that is past 10 years in the past, so if I enter January 24th, 2006, so I'll change this to January 24th, 2006, which is 10 years and a day before the high school completion date is 10 years and a day before the residency determination date for this particular term that I'm applying to. If you scroll down, you'll see that this section for the multiple measures questions has rolled up and disappeared. And then if I say that I'm enrolling in high school or a lower grade and applying to this college at the same time, then this high school education section will roll up with because it's not necessary. But when I scroll down to the multiple measures.
Hey, Tyler.
Yeah.
when you're done, I'm gonna just gonna show everybody. So while he's doing that, there's really two conditions that triggers the questions. The conditions are you either have to be a high school grad or equivalent, meaning you can pass the GED or one of the equivalency tests within the past 10 years. So if it's somebody who graduated 20 years ago, they're not going to be, they're not going to qualify for this information. So you have to be a high school grad or equivalent within the past 10 years, and you've had to have graduated from high school or completed the GED in the United States. So if you graduated in Canada and you're here now, you will not be, qualify for this. The other condition is, as Tyler just showed you, if you're a current high school student. So if you're a current high school student, we find out because you said, enrolling in high school or lower grade at the same time. As he said, the high school ed level is going to default to the same, because if you're enrolling in high school and college at the same time, your high school ed level's the same. Those questions, what will appear is just that one question. Have you completed 11th grade? It's the only thing that's going to show up. So the student has to say yes to that. So I guess the qualifying criteria, as far as the Common Assessment Team has advised us, is we only want high school seniors. So that means 11th grader, 10th graders, 9th graders. They're not part of this. And we want grads within 10 years from graduating within the U.S. So there's going to be, if the student chooses one of the other enrollment statuses or high school ed levels that aren't within those two conditions, that section won't even show up. So the folks that contact me and says, I don't see it, it's not showing up. You may have either, you just did your enrollment status and your ed level wasn't meeting the criteria. So all of that is spelled out pretty clearly on the change spec that you can look at. Sorry to interrupt you there, Tyler. Just wanted to point that out.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Patty.
And there's data fields total that you could download, including that completed 11th grade question. It's just a yes, no, Boolean question. So that's pretty much it for what we wanted to show. Let's ask some questions. And while we're doing that, I'm going to put up just the last slide that we have so that we don't go over by too much. Mayor? Questions for multiple measures?
So I'm sorry, you cut out on your last question?
I just said, what questions do we have about the multiple measures? Anything that... Go ahead.
Tyler answered, Sandy Goody, the college must opt in to have their applicants see the questions, and you will only download the results of those questions if you add those fields to your download client format file. No changes are necessary for any school which does not wish to opt into the multiple measures field. So the last question is somebody wanted to know how to find the instructions on how to change their format file. Okay. And I put a link for the download client area of the documentation.
Okay, great questions. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. And hopefully everybody knows where the CCCApply public documentation is. You can get to it directly. There's links in the support site. There's links all over the place. But if you're familiar with the CCCApply project site, by the way, it got a facelift this year. This is more in line with all the other Tech Center websites. It's a little bit different, but you can get to documentation here as well. It's going to take you to the same, actually it's going to take you here first, but these are the same exact links as what appears here. So if you click on data dictionaries, these are the production data dictionaries that are in effect right now from the last update for the pilot test, here's the standard data dictionary and the international. And then for actual help, user guide help, we have a user guide called the Download Client User Guide. And that tells you how to add fields to your format file, and it really should be done by an IT staff person. Unless you know XML, if you're a kind of a tech-savvy admissions person, for good or for bad, that's what the download process is based on, is 2 XML files. And it walks you through exactly how to do it. There's also, and then every time we add new fields, and again, almost always they'll be optional, unless it's a mandate from the chancellor's office or the government or the federal government or something, and you would know. You don't have to add any new data fields. But if you do, you also have to update the download client. And here's the files that do that. So a little bit confusing because we're in a pilot period. For your testing in the pilot, here's the update file. After we go live on September 30th, this space will have the, okay, here it is now. This is the official production, data dictionary, the official production download client files, everything you need. But so user guides, there's also a user guide on the administrator, how to use the report center, how to build supplemental questions, and then the download client. And then you can see that there's also some sample XML files here. These are download files. Questions? Another question there?
Sorry, so PV Carter asked, so there is a document that shows the new data fields are between production and pilot. So you can look at the 2 data dictionaries that Patty just showed you, both the pilot data dictionary, sorry. Thank you. The standard application data dictionary, and that will show you the fields. There should be no difference between pilot and production except in the download client jar files right now.
So like I just opened up the pilot version of our standard data dictionary. And like if you look through the table of contents, it's the multiple measures is in the education page. And you can see it's a brand new section, high school transcript information. Here's all the, the detailed, the data element details. Here's what the field name is. Here's what the format of it is, whether it's a Boolean field or a text string, and here's what it means. Here's what the on-screen question is. All of that kind of data spec. But there's also a quick table. And by the way, this is also, just to try, so you don't have to go through all this, I put it in that release notes page. But I just want to show you that the back of every data dictionary, here's the logic. There's a page called download field table, and it itemizes, where is it? Table of download fields. And it shows you every single one on the, yeah?
Sorry, after September 30th, will the ability to look at the multiple measures go away in pilot if they have not opted in?
Yes. Yes. Sorry about that. I guess I clicked away from that page I had open. But this is kind of a long page. This is the release notes page. But there is a handy new data fields. Click on that. These are the ones. Now, if you look at this, you're going to notice there's a couple other data fields on here. There was a field that was released last year called in the Social Security number section, a little checkbox for I do not have a Social Security number because I'm an international student. We did not make that field available at the time. Now we're just letting you know if you want to download that, you're going to have to add it to your download file. It's not in there. Now it is. It's also in the report center. So if you don't want to add it to your download, you could always run a report on it. It's also available to create a rule around, and it's available in all applications. So that's one of those ones where if you want it in your BOG download file, you got to add it to that one too. If you want it in your international download file, you got to add it there. These ones are all the multiple measures, and they're only in CCCApply. Again, you don't have to add them. And then there's 4 more. These are just, as we rolled out the international, there were a few fields that hadn't made it into your download file. The term start date, end date, term description, major description. These only pertain to the international app. If you are planning to implement that and you haven't yet, don't even worry about it. You'll catch these when you implement. There's 3 colleges live on international now. We're working with them to make sure that they get these if they want them. Also, that integrity flag. You don't have to download that. It's gonna on a report in the report center. It'll flag that there was an out-of-state activity, but some people might want to download it. We want to make it available. So if you want to add that, you can. So here's all the data fields. Here's another link to the download client jar file. So you update your format file with these field names. And if you're gonna do it, then you have to update your download client. Download file, download client. There's really nothing other than that, if you want to implement it, that you have to do for this release. You don't have to worry about the logic change, unless I know there's 1 or 2 of you out there that have made some beautiful reports just for internal purposes based on the residency logic. We would just want to make sure that you're aware that step 1 changed a little bit. The outcome of the residency status and everything, that's exactly the same. It's just getting there in that logic. Some of that logic changed. But you still really don't have to do anything. Here's all those bug fixes if you care enough, little tiny things. And I think that's it, a little bit about the accessibility things we did. And then how to get to the pilot site again is on here. If you're gonna change your download file, here's information for your IT people. They already have it. And then links back to the documentation. So this release notes is in the same area, the public documentation where the data dictionaries are, the user guides. There's also last year's annual report from the big annual update. That's all in here with every approved change request. So there's really a lot of information in here. If you've never been here before and you haven't seen it, peruse around and look at some of this stuff. So any other burning questions? Otherwise, I'm fine with staying, but I want to let everybody who needs to leave, that's the last thing we were going to show. Feel free to stay, but thank you for showing up. Actually, the last little thing as you're leaving is we want to reinforce that throughout this 30 days, if you see anything, if there's any problems, go to the support site at ccctechnology.info and post it on there. There's we created a post that says, here, use this one, to kind of keep track. Where was that, Merrie? Wanted to have it open. So I'll put the link in here. We created one central place. Say, hey, if you find any bugs, post it here. But you don't need to do that. You can just come up to this and say, pilot release. And then anything that has to do with the pilot release will come up. If you can't find what you're looking for, then you can, I'm logged in as an administrator, but you would just start a new conversation. I need to report a bug. and it'll walk you through 2 quick steps, and then your post is posted, and then other people can respond to your post too. That's kind of the beauty of the support site. It's also a forum for supporting other people, sharing information. Somebody could have asked the same exact question you have earlier today, and we already answered it, and you can find it, get your answer, and you don't even have to create a post. And we also have FAQs in here too. So that was just the last slide. Is if you haven't gone here yet, please go to the support site. Merrie and other support staff are monitoring the support site Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And so usually, so if it's something that's just a question, she's going to answer you right there. If it's something that pertains to a technical issue that you're having at your college, she's going to take that and contact you privately, create a support ticket in our Zendesk issue tracking system, and follow your issue through to resolution. But if it's just a question or information, we'll just we'll use that support site. Okay. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate your time. Yeah.
There was one last question.
Sure.
And it's from Mira Costa. Their question is, can we now implement rules and have it executed as the applicant is filling out each field? Because the application has not been submitted, there is no way to have a rule process on an unsubmitted application. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
If I could clarify that.
Yeah.
The rules that the colleges add themselves for each of the fields, those are run when the user clicks the submit button, but not after the submission process. So those are run as a last thing before they're submitted. So,
and the reason
so those rules. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Patty.
The reason we do that is because, I mean, things can change all the way up to the very last question. Would you say that was true? I mean, that's why we run the rules right at the end. Why do we do it right at the end?
Mostly it was just because it was written that way at the beginning. We don't. To run it on each page at the end sorry, let me rephrase that. So in order to run the rules when the user hits the continue button on each individual page, for instance, so that it's the same as the other validation that we have, it'd just be a little bit more logic. So at the time when we originally wrote the application, we just decided to have it so that the schools, the rules that the colleges add are only run at the end, just so it would kind of prevent any confusion while you're going through the middle of the application.
Right.
We don't. I mean, it's just a business decision, so that would be a feature that we could possibly implement if that was prioritized.
I mean, actually, the steering committee has talked about this a lot, and I mean, what tends to happen is if we change it so that your email rules trigger right when they answer a question, they can, if they stop and save their application and come back later and say, "Whoops, I made a mistake on that. I need to change my response." It isn't really until they consent to release their information to you. It's the pre-application process, honestly, until they, when they consent, under penalty of perjury, they're saying that, their answers are truthful, and, and then when they hit submit, they're basically saying, we're give permission to the college. I mean, they can not consent, but if they hit consent, they're giving permission to the college to contact them to, they're eligible now for your application process. If we run those rules before that, you run the risk of sending out emails prematurely. honestly. I mean, we've talked about that a bunch. So if you're interested in submitting a change request, please do it. We can talk about it some more. Maybe there's new technology, or maybe there's something we're not thinking about. But students do that. They change their, they save their application, come back later, and change their responses. So anyway, something.
I apologize if I wasn't clear. I was talking about the custom validation rules that the colleges can add, and the email rules. Those are run at the end of the application, and then the validation rules that the colleges can add for each of the individual fields. Those are run at submission time as well.
Yeah. So I definitely don't want to put anybody off from submitting a change request. I mean, if it's something that we should think about again, let's do it. But from the conversations that we've had with the steering committee, we don't see any value to shooting off an email before they hit submit. So now error rules don't error rules, because I know that you could set up an error message rule that'll pop up right away. Am I wrong about that, Tyler?
So email rules are sent out when a user successfully submits their application. So once we record that the application has been submitted successfully, that is when we send out the emails.
Right.
For the error rules, those are only run when the user clicks the submit button.
Okay. All right.
It's not run at the page level. It's run at the very end of the application. So if you have an email rule, for instance, on the account mailing page or on the education page, those are the custom rules that the college adds for validation messages.
Yeah.
Will only trigger when the user hits the submit button on the very last page after they have gotten through all the other error messages that we have built into the application.
Right. So that's the way it's set up now. Again, if the steering committee needs to talk about it, let us know. Anything else, Mayor? 83 comments. That's pretty great.
I don't have any more questions that I can see. Did you see any more, Tyler? I think we answered them all.
No, I think we've got everybody. I apologize if I've missed being able to answer a question that was directed towards us, though.
You did great. Okay, well, thanks again, everyone. Look for a follow-up. An hour Zoom meeting takes about 25 minutes to compile after. So tonight, I'll compile these. I usually try to get them posted within 24 hours with the slides and the actual audio-visual presentation. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Merrie and Tyler.
Thank you very much.